WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.
I'm Kyle Long, host of Cultural Manifesto, just one of the local music programs you can enjoy on WFYI. These programs would not be possible without your financial support. And to say thank you, we want to send you to see Lyle Lovett when he comes to Indianapolis on July 28th. Choose a concert ticket as your gift when you donate at WFYI.org/give. And thanks for supporting WFYI.
We're going to take a trip right now. Like we always do about this time.
This is a journey into sound. Break it down.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. Up first, on this week's show, I'll speak with the Indianapolis vocalist Bayem. His music mixes influence from R&B, 80s pop, and electronic music.
When it came to music, I think my whole goal was just to replicate the feelings that I got from the music I grew up on. So a lot of like 80s music, Michael Jackson, Prince.
And on the second half of the show, I'll speak with Simon Marvin of the critically acclaimed Australian soul jazz band Hiatus Kaiyote. They'll be performing in Indianapolis on June 21st at the Egyptian Room.
You know, Questlove was sort of talking about us, and then Prince talked about us, then Erykah talked about us, and it was like, wow, okay, we really got to keep doing what we're doing.
But first, let's join my conversation with Bayem. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
I've been listening to your music. I love what you're doing, and I'm excited to learn more.
Oh, thank you.
I read that you grew up in a musical family.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. When did you start getting into music?
Honestly, so that was something I got into really early. My dad is a, drummer, kind of a producer here and there. But really everybody on his side is a gospel musician, minister of music, this, that, and the third. So growing up, if it wasn't seeing my dad play drums at church, it was seeing my grandma lead the choir at her church. So I remember when I turned 5, he got me my first drum set, and that was really when I started banging around with music.
5 years old?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask who your dad is?
Oh, my dad is, his name's Terry Footman. It's funny because my buddy Devin Ashley,
great drummer.
Yeah, they grew up together and were making music. But basically my dad went to the military, came back, and then kind of made the decision of, I'm going to do the family thing. Like, I love music, but I'm going to do the family thing. So
you mentioned gospel music.
Oh, yeah.
Was he by chance part of the Footman Brothers, a legendary Indianapolis gospel group?
Those are my great uncles and his uncles. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great lineage of music to come from, and you have a very talented family. I know. I don't know if they're your cousins or what, but the brothers Footman now are very active. What's the relationship there?
Those are my cousins.
Yeah.
They're honestly, when I think about how everything has gone with my own music, they've been great. Throwing a lot of free game and just support, and it's helped having family who's already in music who can kind of help guide me in certain aspects. So
I remember from my conversations with the brothers Footman that music was just such a normal part of daily life in the family. Like, they would talk about holiday gatherings, playing music was as natural as, putting the turkey in the oven for Thanksgiving. Was that kind of how you grew up? Just music was part of everything in your family's life?
Honestly, I would say that music is as a part of me as a human being as, like, my blood is. You know what I mean? It's like, like they were talking about every family gathering, whether it was Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatnot. It was like, all right, we ate our food and did this, that, and the third. Let's sing some songs now, So, growing up on a daily basis, my dad was showing me music. My sister and I were listening to music. So music was just kind of always there,
You started making music seriously as a teenager, correct?
Yeah. So I put out my first song almost 10 years ago now.
Was that Black Enigma?
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. He did the deep cut research. Wow. Yeah, that was Black Enigma. honestly, my primary reason for having that name was I wasn't fully confident in putting my name on my own music yet. But yeah, so I started putting out music when I was about 15, and then really started taking it seriously at like 18 when I graduated high school.
It's good music, and I can hear the seeds of what you're doing today in that music.
Right on.
What were you trying to do at that time? Where did you see yourself going as a musician as a teenager?
Honestly, my life was going in a lot of different directions. I was pretty serious about sports. School, I was decent at, kind of didn't really apply myself. But when it came to music, I think my whole goal was just to replicate the feelings that I got from the music I grew up on. So a lot of like 80s music, Michael Jackson, Prince, Phil Collins. I remember as a kid, my dad, he had all the like, Phil Collins farewell tour, like CDs and tapes. So I just remember some of my earliest memories, like of him watching, Phil on tour. So really, when I started music, I was just like, I don't know what it needs to sound like, but it needs to feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Building off that, your music today bridges a lot of different genres and sounds and atmospheres, from R&B music to 80s pop to contemporary electronic music. Mm-hmm. How did you get to where you're at now, if that makes sense?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I'd say the primary factor that's helped me get to this point is just approaching music with a sense of openness. You know what I mean? I think, in the past I've tried to go, there was a period where I was like, okay, I'm going to be this type of artist, and then I would make a different type of song and go, well, this doesn't make sense, but I kind of like this too, you know what I mean? And so as I've continued to write music and produce music, I kind of view it as, whatever comes, and I'll just make it the way I like to make it, you know what I mean? And as long as it feels good, that's all that matters to me.
I wanted to ask you about the label you're working with here in Indianapolis, Absorb. Mm-hmm. They're based in the Fountain Square neighborhood. From what I've seen, it seems like this label has been a big part of your career and helping you kind of craft your vision and music. Is that true? And tell me about the influence of Absorb on your work.
Oh, definitely. I mean, honestly, I look at my relationship with Absorb as almost like a master and apprentice type of relationship. You know what I mean? I started working with them in 2020, like late 2020. Really summer 2020, but neither here nor there. And honestly, working with them has created a situation where I'll bring like the seeds of an idea, or even like, the sapling of an idea, and bringing it to them. They're like, all right, this is how we can make this a full tree. You know what I mean? So I feel like I've learned so much about just the process of making music. I've become a better writer, a better vocalist. It's really been like a mentorship. On paper, it's like a business partnership, but I see it more as like wow, you guys are really mentoring me in terms of like, hey, this is how you do everything. So I would say, in a lot of ways, I wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Absorb, you know what I mean? And the way that they approach business, the way that they approach music, and really just approach life, just making everything relationship focused and people focused, it clicked from the very start, our values lined up.
I want to share an example of your music. I'm going to play your latest track, Regrets.
Word.
Great R&B song, classic kind of R&B feel. Tell us about this piece.
Honestly, how that came about was pretty funny, actually. There's some times where I sit down and have the idea that, I'm going to make a song today, this and the third. But really, that wasn't the case for Regrets. I remember, I got home from a long day of like running sessions over at Stone Tree Studios in Fountain Square. And I was kind of tired, kind of like, I don't know if I want to sit down and write today, this and the third. Sat down, wrote the first verse, pre-chorus, and the chorus. And I remember I called my manager, Owen, and I was like, dude, I feel really good about this one. He was like, yeah, finish it. So altogether, it took probably 2 hours to write, and it just felt very natural. I don't know where it came from, but I feel like most songs that I've made, I don't know where it comes from. I just stay open, and the spirit finds me.
We'll hear that track now. This is Bayem with Regrets.
Oh, I have no regrets. I would do it over and over again. Oh, I have no regrets. 'Cause you were mine, even if it was a moment in time.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. We just heard Regrets, the latest single from Bayem, and Bayem is my guest this week. And up next, I'm going to share a track from your 2020 EP, Afterglow. Mm-hmm. This EP had a lot of success, especially on Spotify.
Oh, yeah.
I know one of the tracks, Is It Thrill, had over 1 million streams. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the impact of this EP. It seems like this was a breakout moment for you.
Definitely. It was kind of wild having, so many people really relate to all the tracks, you know what I mean? But I think Thrill especially, just because I wrote that song about, really what the song is about is like, I graduated high school, not going to college, not really sure what I'm doing. Yeah, I want to do music, but how do I even go about that? And so I'm kind of just riding around the city with my buddies, just smoking, doing whatever, getting into whatever. And so for that to be the most successful song, I'm like, wow, okay, there must be something about it that touched a lot of people or had other people going, you know what, I remember an experience like that. But, it's kind of wild to think that Afterglow came out 2 years ago now. It feels like so much has happened since then. It was like there was almost a giant influx of people because of it. And the relationships that I made, professionally, personally off of that, invaluable. I feel so thankful for it.
I'm going to share the track Pressure off that EP. Very impactful, powerful piece of music. Right. Anything you want to say about it?
Hey, it's one of my favorites. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Let's listen to that track. This is Bayem with Pressure.
I died in your arms, bled until we burned out the evil, and all this makes me whole. Pressure. Yeah. I'm not the same. Oh, pressure. Oh, pressure. Oh, pressure. Pressure. Always gonna change. Oh, pressure. Coming under pressure. I'm always feeling pressure. I'm not the same. Oh, pressure.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. We just heard Pressure from Bayem off his Afterglow EP, and Bayem is my guest this week. And the next project I want to ask you about, I think came out last year. Mm-hmm. It was an ambitious EP titled OASIS. Mm-hmm. And I read that this project was inspired by Vaporwave music, which is a really unique genre of electronic music. Mm-hmm. I'm sure some of our listeners might not be familiar with Vaporwave. Tell us, in your words, what Vaporwave is and what inspired you to kind of craft this EP around that sound.
I feel like Vaporwave as a genre is a celebration of internet culture. You know what I mean? Sure, a lot of its elements pull from like new wave and a lot of 80s music, but I feel like the whole idea of it really spawned on like message boards, Reddit, Tumblr, stuff like that. So Vaporwave, to me, how it introduced itself into my life was just kind of being a young kid. I'm a child of the internet, just rolling through different message boards, and it's like, what's this Greek statue head? This is interesting. These synths sound really interesting. And I don't know what it is, but like something about the sound made me feel both, sad and happy at the same time. Like I'm longing for a past that I never lived. You know what I mean? It's very interesting how like just the instrumentals could do that. So when the opportunity came up to make a Vaporwave project, I was like, hey, as a fan of Vaporwave for such a long time, to be able to like, even in an insignificant way, throw my name into the hat of the lore that is Vaporwave. I mean, I feel honored to do it. So I'm glad we were able to put that out there, and I'm glad that people, vibe with it. So
yeah, how have fans in that community responded to the EP?
It's been interesting because there's people that I know that normally wouldn't listen to the type of music who have kind of dipped their toes in the water and gone like, oh yeah, I didn't know this is what Vaporwave was, because for a long time it was a meme, you know what I mean? Like, oh wow, this is what Vaporwave is, all the Greek statue heads and like, throwback advertisements and whatnot. But I think, I really appreciate the response, and having people that I trust in that lane of music go, yeah, this is it, give it their cosign has been, hey, that's all I was looking for. You
mentioned the 80s influence on Vaporwave music and culture. I'm going to share the track Remember, which almost reminded me of like Human Nature by Michael Jackson or Africa by Toto. Oh, yeah. It has that kind of vibe to it. Tell me about this piece.
Honestly, I would say, and I've reiterated this to Owen and pretty much everybody else, I feel like Remember is my favorite song I've ever written. And the primary reason is just because it feels like the Phil Collins stuff. It feels like the Peter Gabriel stuff. You know, my mother's from Germany, so she's always been really into like the world music, like the Police, like anything that Sting has put out. So when we put that song together and it finally came together, I was like, wow, yeah, this feels like I would be able to show this to them, and they go, yeah, you really captured the feeling.
Yeah, you hit the bullseye on this track. This is Bayem with Remember.
When the night begins to fade and the summer turns cold, all light to shade, I feel a ghost, a memory, in a single instant brings you back to me. You're the one I can't forget now, thinking about you in the sunlight. You're the one that I remember most.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. We just heard Remember off the EP Oasis from Bayem, and Bayem is my guest this week. You're really just starting your career, right? This is just getting off the ground. Do you have any immediate plans coming up that you'd want to share, or any future ambitions you want to describe to us?
Honestly, when it comes to stuff like that, I try to keep that, close to the heart. I like to view just the day-to-day as, okay, how am I doing my daily due diligence? Like there's that Chinese proverb. I actually read it this morning. It kind of reiterated itself in my life. It was like, before you find enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. After you found it, chop wood, carry water. So even as things have started to do well, I'm like, okay, well, now that things are going well, we just continue what we've done to make it go well, which is sit down, do our daily due diligence of writing, trying to grow as a person, trying to grow as a creative, and really just pouring deeper into the relationships that have gotten us here. You know what I mean? I'd say big ambitions. I would love to do bigger venues. I feel like in a matter of time that will happen, but can't put the cart before the horse. I'm just focused on making the songs that would make sense in that environment. So yeah, that's really it.
I know you had a big show at the Hi-Fi recently. Tell me about the live act, and do you have anything coming up? Honestly,
that whole experience was pretty wild. I would say just because, at least for me, there was a lot of times in my life where, the opportunity presented itself for me to kind of like take a leap. And because of fear, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So really what those shows felt like was, all right, here you have two opportunities to pretty much set right all of that. And really, I just tried to go out there and just feel free. You know what I mean? We did a lot of rehearsals in the run up to that. But even if you rehearse till from sun up to sundown, it's really how are you performing on that day? So I look at those shows as a really big turning point in my life, in my career. So yeah, I really am thankful for them. When it comes to like future shows, we have some stuff that we're looking at, but I can't say anything, for sure right now.
I want to give you a chance to pick a final song before we go. But first, any final thoughts you want to leave the listeners of Indianapolis with?
Honestly, I'd say the big thing is, it's beautiful to see all of the great stuff happening in Indy. I had my chance to go to really the first Friday I'd ever been to over at the Circle City Industrial Complex. And to see that much art in a city like this, especially because growing up, I never really considered Indianapolis as an art city. It was really always, oh yeah, we got the Colts, the Pacers, you want to play some sports, this is the place to be. But to the listeners, I would just say, be on the lookout for more music from myself, from other people who are really doing their thing. The Indianapolis music scene is on its way up, and it's a beautiful thing to see. There's people really putting in work and, trying to continue growing their trees, even though they've already had roots in the city for a long time.
Well, you're definitely adding to the cultural life of Indianapolis, and I congratulate you on all your success so far and look forward to hearing what you have next. Final song you want to leave us with?
That's a good one. I would say the final song that would make a lot of sense is Enough. It's the first track off of my most recent project, Oasis. I think the primary reason is just because, I feel like that one has kind of like a Killer's vibe, you know what I mean? Kind of that same worldly type of energy.
Bayem, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
We're going to hear Enough off the Oasis EP, right?
Right on. Yeah,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We might look back on us and think that we rushed away from everything we loved. When the moment does pass, we may just relax and wonder what it all was. 'Cause we are enough. We are enough. When we're old and we're gray, I know that I'll still need time.
Cultural Manifesto will return after this short break.
WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. Up next, I'll speak with Simon Marvin of the critically acclaimed Australian soul jazz band Hiatus Kaiyote. They'll be performing in Indianapolis on June 21st at the Egyptian Room. The band's unique sound has earned praise from music icons like Prince, Erykah Badu, and Questlove, and their songs have been sampled by artists including Drake, Kendrick Lamar, Beyonce, and Jay-Z. Hiatus Kaiyote will be releasing their fourth studio album, Love Heart Cheat Code, on June 28th. The album is produced by Mario Caldato Jr., best known for his work with the Beastie Boys. And we'll listen to a track from that record now. This is Everything's Beautiful.
Don't you know everything's beautiful? Did you know this? Don't you know love? Don't you know everything's beautiful? I was singing through my headphones. I was fine. I am free from harm's way.
That was Hiatus Kaiyote with Everything's Beautiful. And the band's keyboardist, Simon Marvin, is my guest this week. Let's join our conversation. Simon, thank you so much for taking time to join me today.
You're welcome, man. Pleasure to be here.
Your keys are such a big part of the band's sound, and you have a very unique and eclectic sound as a keyboardist. And I've heard that Fats Waller and Earl Hines were early influences on your work, which kind of took me by surprise. Is that correct? And tell me about that.
Look, I wouldn't say that I dove deep into those two players. I listened to them a lot because I had a couple of records when I was a teenager, probably about 14, 15 years old. My mum just bought me a couple of best of jazz records. Yeah, because at the time I was learning classical music and I wasn't very motivated and I wasn't really enjoying myself because I was making my way through the AMEB, which is the Australian Music and Examination Board of Classical Music, and it was doing my head in. So she was trying to find new ways to inspire me. I'm very grateful to my mother, always helping me out with that kind of stuff. And she threw these CDs at me, and I started listening to them. And Earl Hines was the big one that I was just like, wow, that's incredible what he's doing. He's an amazing solo. He's very virtuosic. He still had a classical kind of sound as well, but his technique was incredible. And yeah, it just blew me away, and that kind of steered me into jazz and popular kind of music.
How did you work your way towards the more electric and soulful synth sounds we hear in your playing now?
I went through university studying music, and didn't really do much of it there. But, once you become a gigging musician, you've got to buy a keyboard because there's no pianos around. So, that's the first board I bought was an RD700, and that was my workhorse for a Roland RD700, which was, my workhorse for a number of years. But that was just primarily piano and Rhodes. And then, I think I had like I got a Casio when I was a late teenager that I was playing around with a lot at home with different sounds. But I didn't really get into synth design and synthesizers until I just sort of became a full-time gigging session musician in Melbourne, and lots of different gigs were available, and I just needed more sounds, and now I've got a collection of probably 50 or 60 keyboards that I use for synth design, and it just became an addiction, and it was great because it's awesome for Hiatus because we can the band can go in any direction, I can pull up any kind of synth and it can be great for the project.
Simon, your new album with Hiatus Kaiyote, Love Heart Cheat Code, is coming out later this month. I love the tracks I've heard so far. I'm excited to hear the record. The album was produced by Mario Caldato Jr., probably best known for his work with the Beastie Boys, but he's also produced lots of great Brazilian artists like Soy Jorge, Marcelo de Deutsch. Tell us why the band sought Mario out to produce this record and kind of what he added to the group's sound.
We've got a lot of love and respect for Mario. We've known him for a number of years now. The first time we met him was we had a jam with Madlib, and this is way back. It's probably like 8-9 years ago now. And the studio that he wanted to jam in was Mario's studio, so we kind of rocked up and met him there first, and it was a really beautiful meeting, and seemed like a beautiful guy, and then from there we sort of stayed connected, and he'd come to gigs, and he just sort of fitted in really well with our energy. I think one of the most challenging things for Hiatus is to actually finish a record. If you've got the 4 people in the room that have a say, it's really hard. So we decided to get an external engineer to sort of help us do the final mix of the record. And we decided to ask Mario if he'd be interested. We basically got the record to a point that we were all happy with it, and then flew over to LA and sat with him for a couple of weeks and just kind of finessed it, And it was great. It was tough. It's always tough with Hiatus because everyone's quite particular and very strong-minded about the way they want things to sound and be, and but he was beautifully understanding, and so it was great, man. It was great. I'm so glad that we got him involved, and this is the quickest release yet that we've had from our last record, so it worked, I think.
Let's take a break from my conversation with Simon Marvin and listen to another track from the forthcoming new album from Hiatus Kaiyote. This is Make Friends.
You don't make friends, you recognize them, yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I could be around all day. I could be the sun. I could be sentimental. Socrates straight.
That was Hiatus Kaiyote with Make Friends off their forthcoming new album, Love Heart Cheat Code. That album was produced by Mario Caldato Jr., a Brazilian-born producer known for his work with the Beastie Boys. Let's return to my conversation with Hiatus Kaiyote keyboardist Simon Marvin as we discuss the influence of Brazilian music on the band's sound. The band's last album, Mood Valiant, featured production by Arthur Veracai, a legendary Brazilian arranger. Mario, as I mentioned, has worked with many Brazilian artists and was born in Brazil. Is that a coincidence? Tell me about the influence of Brazilian music on the group sound.
It's a bit of a coincidence, yes. We all just really loved that Arthur record that he put out. And, there was a couple of songs. Well, initially it was just Forget Son, where we were like, this would really benefit from some strings and horns. And Nay was like, we should just ask Arthur Veracai. And our manager, Scott Barkin, had some connections in Brazil and was like, yeah, I'll sort of see if I can make a connection with him. And then before we knew it, he was interested in doing it. And we were like, great, it's fantastic. So we ended up flying over to Brazil, booked a bunch of shows, and sat in on the session, which was really special. To be honest, at the time, we were trying to finish the record. Label was wanting the record, and it was already late, and I think everyone would agree in the band that I'm probably the most sensible one. And at the time, I'm like, we're not going to Brazil to go watch Arthur record the strings and horns. We got to stay home and finish this record. And I'm like, we're crazy. We can't go over there for 2 weeks and do a bunch of shows. And I'm like, we got to stay here and finish the record. And everyone else was like, no, we're going over. And I was like, all right. And I'm really glad that we ended up not doing what I wanted to do, because it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience. We got to watch Arthur work, and man, it was a really beautiful moment. And then we ended up having a great time at the studio and booked it out for the rest of the night, and then wrote Red Room. That came out of that session. It's not always important to do the sensible thing, I think, is the lesson learned there for me. It's like, we got to, sometimes you just got to follow the heart. And it was a great experience. We absolutely adored Brazil. It was the people and the crowds that came to the gigs were just amazing.
I wanna like what you do.
Simon, I want to move in a totally different direction. I'm a huge hip-hop fan, and I'm really fascinated by sampling. Your music has been sampled by massive hip-hop artists. Anderson .Paak, Kendrick Lamar, Drake, Beyonce, and Jay-Z. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. How do you feel about sampling, and how does it feel to be sampled by these iconic superstars of global music?
Oh man, it just sort of, I don't know, you just take it in your stride, man. You can't let it affect you. I think you just sort of, keep doing what you're doing. It's just affirmation, really, I think, which is a beautiful thing. That stuff kind of started happening for us, that sort of indication that we're doing the right thing was when, Questlove was sort of talking about us, and then Prince talked about us, then Erykah talked about us, and it was like, wow, okay, we really got to keep doing what we're doing. And, I definitely knew from the first moment that we played together that there was a really special connection between the four of us. I've played in many bands over the years, and as soon as we started playing, it was very noticeable that there was an amazing connection. It was like such a different energy from these musicians that I never really worked with before. Nay was writing these songs that were incredibly harmonically difficult, but she had no theoretical knowledge of what she was doing. So, it kind of didn't make sense. And Bender is like me, very seasoned musician, went through university and understands theory, and we're both just looking at each other just like, what is going on? This is amazing. And, it kind of taught me a lesson to not rely on this theoretical knowledge and this intellectualized version of music that I was so used to, that I had to delve into my creativity, and that's what I think, that energy really is what people hear, and that's the fundamental, is this unique artistry that comes out of us.
Finally, Simon, Hiatus Kaiyote will be performing here in Indianapolis on June 21 at the Old National Center. I know you play all over the world at huge festivals, but I don't think you've played here in Indianapolis before. Have you? Do you remember?
Oh, God, I don't remember, but I don't think we have.
Yeah, and you're kicking off the tour here. I'm curious if Indianapolis, the name, means anything to you. We had an extraordinary jazz scene here at one time. Freddie Hubbard, Wes Montgomery, J.J. Johnson, Slide Hampton, and all these legends came out of the city. Does Indianapolis mean anything to you, or are you fans of any of the artists I mentioned?
I mean, of course I'm fans of those artists. They're incredible artists. No, it doesn't mean anything to me. Apologies.
No,
I mean, America's big, bro.
Yeah.
I'm from the other side of the planet. I mean, it probably should, but yeah, I'm terrible like that. But wow, yeah, I'm sure that you had an incredible scene. That would have been wild to have all those musicians coming out of your city.
Yeah, hopefully you can have a good experience while you're here. There's a great, tiny little legendary jazz club across the street from the venue you're playing called the Chatterbox. If you get a chance to walk across the street, there's like live music 7 nights a week.
The Chatterbox, I'll definitely remember that.
Any final thoughts about the tour, the album, or anything you want to share with our listeners here in Indiana?
Look, we're super excited to play this new record live. We've been chipping away at it and getting it ready for the stage, and it's feeling great. The band's in a really good position right now. Yeah, we're just pumped to get back on the road and do these shows. It's always an absolute joy coming over to America to play to those crowds, and it's almost been like 14 years now that we've been doing this, which is crazy. But every time we come back, we really feel the love, and we feel like we've made a great connection with our fans in the States, and it's just it's a real joy to come over.
Simon, I love your music. I thank you for taking time to talk with me today and look forward to seeing the band here in Indianapolis.
Of course, man. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
We have time for one more track from Hiatus Kaiyote's forthcoming new album, Love Heart Cheat Code. This is Telescope.
Cluster dance and pace, so mighty, light magnifying. These are the things that the heavens see. Telescope under the telescope, telescope under the telescope, telescope under the telescope, telescope under the telescope.
That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you to my guests, Bayem and Simon Marvin of Hiatus Kaiyote. Check out the Cultural Manifesto podcast at WFYI.org or wherever you listen to podcasts. Cultural Manifesto is hosted and produced by me, Kyle Long. Thank you for listening.
WFYI podcasts are made possible by Bloomington, Indiana, an American college town offering experiences like indulging in grub at Nick's English Hut, taking a stroll along Kirkwood Avenue, feeling the history and magic of Assembly Hall, and providing the chance to feel like a college kid again. Plan your trip at visitbloomington.com.